slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and mullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth's out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and mullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, the show where the strange, the unexplained, and the weird take center stage, and where the people behind the encounters matter just as much as the encounters themselves. We're not just here to talk about what was seen. We're here to understand who saw it, how it changed them, and why it still matters. Before we get started, quick shout out to our supporters over on Patreon. If you'd like to help keep the show independent, ad-free, and unapologetically weird, head on over to our Patreon. You'll find members episodes, early access to all the public episodes, and bonus material you won't see or hear anywhere else. If you've had an encounter or something strange that you've just never been able to explain, I want to hear from you. Email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. That's mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Your experience could be featured on a future episode. If you haven't yet, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following me on all your favorite podcast platforms. Give this episode a like, leave a comment, leave us a review. That'll help us with the algorithm, and that's the best way to grow the show. Make sure you check the descriptions on all my episodes. Down below, you're going to find a list of all my favorite podcasts, from Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits, Ghost Gossip, and so much more. And while you're over there listening to their shows, leave them a comment and tell them John sent you. And with that, let's start the show. And welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. On tonight's show, we have returning guest, Jeff Byers, from the Red Eyes episode, and by the time this comes out, the Psychic State Trooper episode. Jeff, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I am wonderful, John. Thank you very much for having me back. This is awesome.
I enjoy having you on because every time we talk, it seems to be a very interesting conversation that goes in many different directions, and you make my job easy, and I like that too.
That's the most complimentary way of saying you don't shut up I've ever heard. No, I'm sorry, I had to say that.
Well, I said it nicely, but it does make my job easy when I can just sit back and take notes.
Excellent.
So why don't you remind everybody a little bit about yourself?
The main thing would be that how I even got into any ghosts or anything was I owned the toy company Creature Replica, along with the famous Jean St. Jean sculptor extraordinaire and arguably one of the best traditional sculptors in the world, and my brother-in-law Craig and my friend Nick, and we do, when you start a toy company, you can't really get going because you got to buy licenses and stuff to do stuff. So you have to do something that's not licensable, something that doesn't exist. So we started with cryptids. So Rougarou and Yeti and Bigfoot. And you've probably seen our Bigfoot on Russ's backpack on Expedition Bigfoot. Russ is awesome. And we did some variants off those two. But yeah, I own that toy company, and I've made some really good friends and got to hit the woods with different groups and try and get going. But yeah, that's kind of me.
And soon there'll be a Methenkamp one.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. We're pricing hair because that's extra. It's more detail. Yes. So it's extra. Now with tariffs, we're not sure how that's going to work. So
yeah, try buying it by the pound. That's the way I do it. Not by the foot. You get bulk rates by doing it by the pound. So the last time you were on, we spent a lot of time talking about some adventures in Ohio.
Yes, sir.
But you have a lot more. By the time this comes out, my listeners will have heard one of your other encounters with Dr. Rebecca Foster. And she tells me that you have some more encounters with her, and hopefully we can get both of you on at the same time, because I would like to hear both sides of these stories at the same time.
Uh, anything that we were out there with Rebecca, she's got gifts. I think things are curious and they come to find her. And there are some.
Well, she's better to look at than you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with that. No, she's sweet to the core. But yeah, we've had some hilarious stuff. We've had some scary stuff, and just we kind of learned together
Yeah.
on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she's a wonderful person.
So we were talking beforehand. You're from Illinois.
Yes, sir.
And anybody that's into cryptids knows that there is rumors of a very large bird that has been seen in and around Illinois. I believe it was either 70s or 80s. There was a 10-year-old boy that was supposedly picked up by one of these gigantic birds, and the mother was able to, rescue him, from this giant bird. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, the other encounters were like over in Shelbyville, Illinois, which there's a lake over there, and there's some videos out there of big birds there. And of course, I'm about 90 minutes from Alton, where the Piasaw bird is on the side of the cave. So I'll tell you how I feel about that. But yeah, I did have the privilege. This would have been 1990, and it was October. And I was heading back to town. I live, well, yeah, like not really southern central Illinois. I'm nowhere near the north part, which is good. But I can't remember here because we just talked about this, and I wasn't, I got to look. I don't talk about it a lot, but it was late, 2:33 or something like that. So I was going to go to Taco Bell, but this would have been
open.
This would have been colder, 1990, and I had a. I don't want to wrap myself out too much. I had
The statute of limitations is well past on this.
It kind of is. It is, and come and get me. So I like to have race cars and stuff, and that was, I lived in a rural area, so you had to have fun where you could. So anyway, I like to have cars, so I had a Corvette at that time, and I was heading back to town, and I was going fast, and the thing I was telling you about is that we're talking, it was hot and awesome in 1990 to have a new vet, but those C4s, that's old now. That's old man fun now. But I hit birds all the time, and I think something to do with that. I don't know what it was, how it cut through the air or whatever. Like if you were speeding, you would hit birds. And so I think that's the only reason I was able to have what happened happen. So there's one light. There's a golf course out rural area, and it's got a sign. It's got one pole light out by the highway. So it's about 5 miles from my house to town. And so I was splitting the breeze coming to town because that was fun. And I come out, and fairly close to that light, there was a dude on the road, late. I'm like, because it's not uncommon for people to walk up and down the road. So there's a guy standing there, and he was walking on my side of the road, and I could see his back. So it's like he had a long trench coat on. And so I was able to shut it down somewhat, because it would be highly not very polite to freaking fly by a person. It would be very rude. So I tried to shut it down as much as I could at that point, but I'm still flying pretty good. So, and I told this same story to for some reason I was talking to Lyle Blackburn about birds, and he remembered it. And a couple of years after I told him, he told Ken Gerhard, because he was doing a book on a lot of different sightings across the Midwest, but he was kind of chronologically trying to line stuff up, which is really cool. So he called me, so I told him the story. He's the only person I actually ever told other than you out in public. But anyway, so
Privileged.
I come across this guy, and I'm right in the process of shutting it down, and he is standing on the white line, like on the side of the highway. So he is there. So right before I got there, right as I got there, it wasn't a guy, it was a bird. And when it went like this to take off and spread its wings, one wing crossed center line of the road. And I know it very well because I went like this.
Holy cow.
So it was, I'm trying to think of how tall. That thing that was like the coat touching the ground was a tail. Now it wasn't a pterodactyl or something crazy like that. It was the best. You know what a starling looks like, or just a
Yeah.
crow?
Yeah.
That's what it was. It wasn't anything crazy or spectacular. It was a massive bird. And
Wow.
it's not uncommon to have owls where we were, or now, to be 4 foot tall. I mean, so 10, 12 wingspan on an owl is not unheard of, especially in the 90s. There was still, wildlife was still, it was different. Because you could drive like that, because if you saw deer in the wild back then where I live, you stop to look at wow, there's a deer. In Illinois right now, there are so many deer that you have to be careful. I mean, literally, there's a deer every mile dead on the road. There are so many stinking deer. I think they're probably going to kill themselves off at some point because of disease, because there's just way too many. So you can't even do this stuff. But all I got to see was one like this, wings come down. And then when they went up the second time, I was already gone. And I was like, what in the heck, And all I know is that you could see the wings and you could see the tail, and it was just like a big crow. I didn't see the face, or I couldn't see the front, so I couldn't tell you what that looked. I just saw the back, and when it took off, it was gone. And so that night I told my mom or whatever, and she's like freaking out or whatever. So you kind of forget about that, but I don't know if there's something because the other experiences, the ghost stuff and the Bigfoot stuff and everything, what are the chances somebody's going to be in the right place at the right time? I don't know. It's like it's whatever. Anyway, once I did, this was years later, like within the last decade, I think Ken wrote his book. And he called me after I gave him a thing, and he wanted dates and times and all that. And so we figured all that up, and the exact day, because I hadn't had that particular car very long, and I kind of knew. And he called me a few months later, and he was putting it together, and he goes, Jeff, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the thing. And I'm like, oh man, So he says, have you ever heard of there's a little town next to us. He goes, you ever heard of this little village? And I'm like, yeah, it's 15 minutes from my house. And he says, I have a report 3 days after you seen that of the exact same thing in that village. And it was a daytime thing. And he saw the exact same thing. So he was building this little trail. And then he went on because I'm like, oh my gosh. And then he went on to back me off and say, Jeff, you know the history of these birds and Piasaw. And he said the sightings around there are amazing. And he said, that it's all basically, they throw a gene that makes them, I don't know what the gene is. It's kind of like the gene. I saw a documentary one time. They were looking for a mammoth, and they made a big thing out of, they found this mammoth that was like, or this elephant that was 4 feet taller than regular elephants and had the big, I forget what it's called, the cranial, whatever that's called, but it looked like a mammoth. Well, it was just an elephant that had threw a mammoth gene and was running with the crowd, but it was massive. And it was a good documentary, even though they showed it for the last minute of the whole damn hour show. And then they were just there with it. But he said that this happens. When he goes, you just got to see that. And it's crazy because since then I've had people that have, for whatever reason, have read that in that book from right here in my hometown. And they've called me and say, Jeff, we saw that bird, and I'm like, or we've saw that kind of a thing before. And I'm like, this is really cool. Nobody would have ever talked about it had it not been talked about once. That's
Right.
I think that's really cool.
So what color was it?
It was real dark, so it looked dark gray. It looked not black, but it looked very dark. It was just there had no colors. There was no markings. You could see a
Okay.
little bit of light. When it went like this, it could have been my lights were shining through it and made it translucent. So color wise, dark.
Right.
That's all I can say.
Okay.
Dark and just big.
Wow.
But
So
that's
the reports that, like, when he did that book, um, he's saying that it wasn't a cryptid. It's just a
not common, but an occurrence that happens in my neck of the woods from central Illinois down to St. Louis, because Alton is right down by St. Louis. So there's a history of that, those genes throwing once in a while in our area.
wow. You'd think though that somebody'd find one of those birds somewhere.
Would they tell anybody if they did?
That's true. It really is a cryptid though.
Well, yeah, yeah, if you don't have a body,
I mean, it's
yeah, it's
not documented. It's not studied. I mean, there's not one in captivity or anything like that.
no, they make some pretty good condors. Okay, so right now the bald eagles are moving into our area because we never had one, and now we have them all over the place. And so I drove past one eating a deer. I work on the road, so and it was 4 feet tall. It was terrifying to see a bald eagle. I mean, I was in the car, but I have some bald eagle stories that are freaky too. But anyway, I was thinking that 4-foot bird probably had a 12-foot wingspan itself, probably bigger than that. That's just a massive bird, and that's not uncommon. So to think one just grew a little bigger than that,
Right.
it's not, at that time, it really got to me, but it's not that terrific now with knowing the other stuff and seeing other types of stuff. You're like, okay, yeah, that's just something that a lot of people
when he
don't
wrote
see.
the book, was he trying to debunk it?
No, he was just creating a pathway of sightings across the Midwest so that he could put some kind of a chain together. It's a great idea. I mean, the book itself, to try to say, yeah, it was seen here, 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 and to develop this path. And I haven't read it, so I know about the dude 2 days after me. So I don't know after that. I haven't actually. Every time I see him, I forget to ask him. I think he still sells that particular book, but he's wrote several awesome books. I don't know which one it is, but
Right.
but yeah, him and one other group, they asked me about it, and it was just in conversation, just to tell you about the time I saw a big bird. That's all it was. Not the
Well, I want to go with it was a cryptid. It was the Thunderbird.
Thunderbird be a good description because it's impressive. And if like Native Americans would see that big of a bird, it would be the Thunderbird.
Right.
Just
So maybe we figured out what the Thunderbird is.
I don't have any other explanation. Oh, I do. Okay, so the people that see pterodactyls, because they're like, oh no, it was a Petra pterodactyls. Like when I was little, they said now it's a Petrosaur.
Yeah,
Pterosaur with a P.
Yeah.
Or so I don't know. It's whatever that is. So
yeah.
With what we've talked about with ghosts and Bigfoot and what I believe are manipulations of frequency and time, people might see that pterodactyl just like they see brontosaurus in the jungle. I'm seeing it. You did see it today, but you didn't see it today. You saw it a long time ago because there was a blip in the dimensions or something. Dimensions, frequency, whatever. You saw it, but you didn't see it right now.
Kind of like a time slip.
Like a time slip. That's just a theory. Everything that I'm telling you is thoughts.
Right.
Not I won't be that guy that says, no, that's not this, or, oh yeah, that's what this is. Cause I don't know. I can only give opinions on what I've seen or experienced, and try to.
And that's how everybody should be though.
Try to wrap your head around what happened to you,
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
I've met people that don't want to. They're like, nope, I can just be there, and I'm never going to go out and do that again, type of a thing, which is also fine.
That's how my wife is.
Mine,
Like I do this all the time. I'm talking about the paranormal and cryptids, and I know this stuff exists. She
oh
knows
yeah,
it exists, but she just doesn't want to think about it. Because if she doesn't think about it, then she doesn't have to worry about it.
my wife, uh, I'll just say she's in the medical field. And you need people that are that focused. And she actually, when I first started going with the Night Stalkers out, and I had these stories, she would look at me, and finally she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, wow, she's not as motivated about it as me. So I have taken both my sons with me. And luckily I've had some of my epiphany moments with them with me. And so when they go back and they say, Mom, I don't know if we've talked about any stories, or we won't go into them, but when they say this happened and I was this close and I seen this, and she's like, okay, just don't, I don't need to know, you know. So that made it all okay.
Yeah.
Other than you know, I don't think I messed with my son's brains any, because they weren't the people that are like, yeah, I'm never going to go back and do that. They're very curious, and
Right.
they've went back with me since. And, it is addictive. If you're not scared to death, then it is terribly addictive, because like, I want that feeling again. I want to experience that again, and so I
Yeah.
was lucky. They know I'm not nuts, and they help me prove that, something is happening. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's this and it's flesh and blood and it's a portal thing, and it's because they could all exist. And
Exactly.
we had that conversation, just because you think, nope, it's this, and because you haven't seen it, that's a good thing. No, you shouldn't believe in stuff if you haven't seen it. You should keep an open mind, but don't say, nope, it is this, because you look foolish to the people that have experienced it multiple times. It's, and they're afraid to talk to you about it, because they're going to tear you up. It's like, no, how can you believe that's stupid? I didn't until it happened in front of me.
Right.
Then I don't know what it was. And I can still tell you most of those Sasquatch stories. Is that what I wanted to call it? That was my definition of it. But was it spiritual? Was it physical? Was it in my brain? Was it a ghost? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes physical form, footsteps and rocks and stomps and yells and frequency, and sometimes silent and sparkly and translucent. And I mean, just name it, I better shut up.
Right. No, you were doing fine. I'm still getting over my cold, so the less I have to talk, the better.
Like I said, I'm your man. And I'm sorry. I want you to get feeling better, man, because this is what you do. You're so busy. I love it.
I
Your
am.
shows. How do you, I mean, you're just talking to everybody about the coolest stuff. And I don't have enough time to keep up with the coolness. I'm trying to make time.
Yeah. So you were talking about, portals and things like that. Have you ever experienced either portals or some people call them the ghost lights, or the orbs that are sometimes associated with Sasquatch?
The only time that I have had experience with something that I would call portal, and there's people I'm sure you've interviewed that'll confirm that sometimes you stumble upon, or you're meant to find, these magical areas, and they may have a history of Civil War battles, and or it's a coming and going place for different things, or it's a place where there is easily shiftable energies. And A lot of times those are in no trespassing areas. I mean, we've had that conversation, and I think that's for a reason. But they find these areas, and they're privileged enough to have experiences repeatedly. And I mean, it's like a blessing. And how that happens and how you are as a person and whatever your gifts are, that's a whole other conversation too. But in one area that I was lucky enough to be around with my buddies, the Night Stalkers, is a very active area always, spring and fall. And it was really kind of interesting because I was the only one to see it. And we'll just, without having the background of Bigfoot, some of these people understand what I'm saying.
Mike Miller.
And put him on speakerphone. I want to hear him.
Oh, really?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Hang on. Mike.
Mr. Jack, how are you?
I am wonderful, but I have to tell you, can you hear John?
Yeah.
I'm on a podcast right now with John Methenkamp.
Oh,
So
anyway, we were talking about the portal.
oh yeah, and I was trying to make it take as long as possible to tell you. No, so the stuff that people, some will say you're stupid and some will say, oh, I know, just right like that. Okay, so you get little pebbles thrown at you once in a while. And there's rocks or whatever. Sometimes it's little pebbles thrown at your feet or whatever when you're out there and you're sitting quietly. And I personally think that they're younger, whatever they are, because the eye shine is different. It's a gray in our area, gray or light blue, and it's playful. I mean, if a rock comes down from a certain area and bounces past you, you kind of know where it came from. So you look up, and because your eyes have adjusted and you're not really looking for anything. It's like I'm sitting here talking to you, but as we're sitting here talking, I'm kind of scanning the behind you or whatever, and you'll see that little gray or that little blue. You'll see just the irises. It's not a big eye or whatever. It's just the irises, and then it'll dart back behind the tree. And that's happened once in a while. And I think it's juvenile because at one point when it was getting close to dawn, we all got chewed out. You would have thought that a mom or dad come out and yelled because they went home, and we said, oh, maybe we got to go home too. I mean, we were very rudely there way longer because it was fun. I don't know what we interrupted, maybe hunting, maybe whatever. But anyway, so one of the little stones come in, and I didn't believe in any of that at the time. So I didn't even know what I saw at the time, but I followed it up, and I had one guy with me, and I said, oh, he's got to be up on that bridge right there, which was maybe 15 feet higher than our heads, up a easy hill. And he's looking with me, not Mike Miller, but and I see the eyes that are down like this. And so it stood up like this, and it turned the other way, and it walked right into a bunch of sparklies. It was like a circle of, just like a sparkler, but just real quick. And I was like, what? There's no fireflies or anything out that night. It was cold. And I didn't know what that was. I'm like, what? My eyes are, you looking at the little irises or whatever, and we don't have any lights or anything. So my eyes are playing tricks on me. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw a circle of sparklies. I think that's not how I've seen them described, but I think he jumped right in front of me. But the weird thing was, the guy that I had his shoulder, I had it come from right here, did not see it. We're in the dark. I couldn't see him, but I know we're looking at the same way up the hill because you hear their voice, and we're looking the same way we're talking. He saw none of that. So,
wow,
what does that mean?
You were meant to see it.
Well, it did have an effect on. Yeah. And that was early on.
Did it make any noise?
No. I went when I go, that's just kind of how I would describe what it looked like. There was no noise
Right.
at all.
Okay.
In fact, I've
You
never
smell anything?
No. Nope.
Sometimes you hear people talking about possible portals and there being some kind of metallic sound, like a gate, like scraping on metal, or like metal on metal. And then sometimes you hear people talk about, like a sulfur smell or a chemical smell or something like that. So that was the reason I asked that question. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Sulfur roadkill one time. Of all the experiences around there, I never had that, but this was, I'm not rude anymore. None of us when we go out. You're out there and you go a little further than what they want you to, and they're going to intimidate you with everything they got. And did I tell you that story with my son with me, the arm's length
The red
away?
eyes?
Yeah, that was that story. Okay, so that was the time when we got back down the hill and it came behind us. Mike Miller was having interactions with that one, and then one stomped around behind us, and that was the first and only time I got hit with that smell. And I think you don't think it's an ape. I love the people. I know some really good friends that have that theory because that's what they've experienced and that's what it is. And that there may be more than one thing. I'm sure there's more than one thing, but I know that some apes have that ability, a gland to stink when it needs to. So this one stomped around back behind the car like they wanted us to leave for sure. But it also gave that smell. And that's the only time I've smelled the smell. I've been real close and never smelled it before. So I'm not sure if some of them just smell normally or if they do it on purpose. But if it can run around and not make noise and on purpose and run around and make a lot of noise on purpose, then why wouldn't it be able to do that on purpose? Make a smell.
Right.
Again, guessing, nothing to back that up, but just having some fun experiences.
Right. So what about like the orbs or the ghost lights?
Some of us, when we go out, there's one area. Did Rebecca, when you talked to her, talk any about this stuff at all?
I don't recall anything about orbs.
Okay. Maybe if we talk sometime again, we'll have to bring her into part of this because she can kind of back me up. I never thought too much about where we're at in Ohio. There are the darndest lightning bugs that are that big, and they're beautiful blue. It's beautiful blue, but they make that light that you would think is that big right there close to you, and they don't blink, which is odd. But I'm like, I'm 6 hours, 7 hours from home, so they also got these little yellow bugs that kind of glow at night. They have their own bioluminescence a little bit, so you'll see those on the ground.
They're always in the grass,
because you always got to debunk everything. Did I see those bugs? I mean, you can't unless you're real close to them, but they have that. We don't have those in Illinois, or I don't see them. But we're not rocky here where I'm at, like it is out there. But so you'll have these, and I never thought twice about it. But I have asked, and half the guys we were with have noticed them, and half have not. And I'm like, how could you not? They were like with us, around us the whole night. It was great. It's beautiful. So I took my youngest, who was 18 at the time, and when we got home, he was talking about all the stuff that had happened, and he was like, Dad, those lightning bugs what's going on with them? And I'm like, so, did you see them? I said, what color were they? He goes, they were blue. Nobody else seen them that night. He goes, Dad, you had one that was like, it hovered over your head when you were on the other side. He goes, it went with you, and you guys walked down the hill, and it stayed right over your head, and then it took off because there's a little logging trail, and it went wham, and it took off down the trail. He goes, I never seen anything like that. And I'm like, I think you're the only one that saw that because nobody else mentioned it. So he was able to see these little blue orbs. Now, let's fast forward to the only other time I've ever seen them other than in this location was back in Illinois. There is an area that is got a lot of cursed earth for whatever reasons. I mean, it's an incredible area because there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. And this one lady had a dark shadow in her house and she was having problems, but she kept saying she's seeing a Bigfoot. There's a Bigfoot on her property. There's a big hairy thing on her property. So I went out there like a dummy, my one and only time that I went to the woods by myself late at night. I thought, I've done this. I'm used to anything. And the whole time I was there was 45 minutes, and I'll never do it again. I'm too big of a wuss. I can't possibly sit by myself in the woods that's active. I'd like to think I'm that much of a man, but I'm not. But what happened in that night is I'm in this little meadow area, and I'm like, okay, I know there's dark stuff, and I know where I'm at. And there was an area over here by the trees, which I found it hard to look at. I'm like, oh, it's kind of, I can't describe it. Somebody would probably have a name for it. There's a lot of pressure right there. It's like, I'm scared of that area. On the other side of the meadow, there's this big tree, and I keep hearing noises, not knocks or anything, just little pecks. Actually, that's it. Little once in a while, I'd hear little knocks. And so I'm very aware that something's going on there, but I'm trying not to pay attention to it because I'm like, that doesn't sound like anything I've heard. So I'm watching everything. And at the end of the meadow, there are lightning bugs because they're just coming up, or it's I don't even think it was midnight, but it's real close to it. But so lightning bugs are slow, and everybody knows what they look like in the meadow. On down where it was more damp is where I could see them. So right pretty close to the end of the 45 minutes, I'm looking over to that area I can't, and a lightning bug lit up, and it was that size, but it was green, and it sat right there. And I'm like, I just watched it. And I'm like, this is like Ohio. So does it mean critters? Or so I'm a little bit interested. I'm scared because I'm by myself. And so it leaves, never blinking. So never blinking. So it goes all the way. And I've seen regular orbs before many times. This just doesn't look like it. It's brilliant, and it's slow moving, and it's pretty. This green wasn't real pretty, but not like the blue. But so it's coming across the meadow, and it didn't even get halfway. And I said, if it goes over to that tree, I am leaving. Now, did I have anything? Did I affect this when I'm thinking this? Because I'm like, I'm really getting nervous. And it never blinked. And it didn't take a long time. It took a minute and a half. That's a long time. But in a minute and a half, it crosses this big meadow, and it goes up to that tree up in the top limb and stays right at that tree. So I'm thinking 411 crap. It's like, I want really bad to go over there. If I had people with me, I would already be over there. But being that this lady currently having black shadow man stuff going on, and I'm in her, I'm 500 feet from her house. I can't see her house because I'm down the hill and in a meadow, but I'm that close to her house. So it went over there, and when it went over there, I grabbed my chair and I said, I'm going to walk. I walk backwards some of the time because I can't stand on my back exposed. But so I said, well, I'm never going to do that again by myself. And actually I've been to that area for several things, but not to her house, because at that point I didn't understand me, and I didn't understand a lot of different things, and it riled me a little bit. That's the only other time I've seen those orbs. Now, I've watched a lot of people speak, and I am in Sault Ste. Marie, way up north at a show. And I meet this wonderful little girl, and I had to go talk to her. She had a booth, so I knew they were doing something. And I had to, because every time I looked over there, her eyes were like multiple sparkles of brilliant. Personally, that's how I can kind of tell if somebody's gifted. Anyway, every time I look over there and she's looking my way, it's just like, whoa, bam, or whatever. And so I had to go talk to her. So when I walk down there, she's already looking at me. She's way younger than me. I bet she's 25. I don't know. She's kind of laughing and smiling, and she knows something about me before I even get there, you know. But so I get in a conversation with her, and I talked to her a couple times that weekend for a little bit. And the second time I find out she is a true Appalachian woods witch, like generations back. And that whole thing kind of goes against some of my stuff, because I'm very fearful of payment on the end.
Right.
Because good can be affected. And she would be insulted if she heard this. So I'm going to shut up about that. But she means very well, and she is the sweetest, and she does good for people. And I'm not going to have that conversation with her. I like her too much, but she is as full blown down the line generation as you can get. But she is a wonderful human that wants to do only good. That being said, we're talking about Bigfoot later, because she's like, I always wanted to go. And this is a story she told me. She went, like, she'll go to the woods by herself to meditate or whatever it's called. So she said she was sitting there, and she says, all of a sudden, she says, there were these there were hundreds, like, rose up about 3 foot high, all around in the forest. And she said they were about this big, and they were just beautiful blue. And it caught my attention. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, so I sat there, and I started saying, you know, I want to know what you are or whatever. And every one of them moved right toward her. So she's sitting there in the meadow like this, and she's got blue orbs around her. This gives me goosebumps to talk about it, because the way she described it, it's like, that's a freaking movie.
Yeah.
And so we had this conversation. So what has, and I don't know anything about this topic. I don't know anything about it. But since then, after her, I've heard multiple people talk about, I don't even want to say it, in areas where Sasquatch are, if it's one of those special areas, you will find the Fae.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what that term meant, or I did, but I didn't want to think about it, because I'm like, it's another one of those things that as a human, just like these people I always gripe about, the first thing you want to say is, oh yeah, no, whatever. Yeah, just because you haven't dealt with them.
Right.
I mean, you and me are sitting here. It's like, I've been beat up by a ghost. I've been arm's length from a Bigfoot. I'm the last jackass that needs to say, oh, no, there's no such thing as that. I mean, what kind of a hypocrite, just because I haven't seen it. Have I seen it? Is that what these are? Because I've heard good things and I've heard bad things. Don't follow the dot. Don't interact with the orb. Not ghost orbs, not that kind of stuff, but these particular things in the woods, in those magical areas, stay away from. I mean, so now I'm thinking her gifts, I mean, holy cow, I need to go to my area with her, you know, or her people, or where we need to go. What'll happen? Maybe, I don't know, you know, and I'm not going to tell you the Rebecca end of that, because she has something to add to this, which she may or may not want to talk about. But
we'll find out when I have both of you on.
Well, that would be awesome. And I would be more than happy to. And I think probably with the interest of what we're talking about here, she is going to her input will be very, very interesting.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. But,
Yeah.
so anyway, orbs, yeah, as far as the appraisals and all that, I've had orbs come right up in front of me like, hey, I'm here because they need help.
Wow.
And I've seen those move, that kind of a thing, but nothing like this forest. Beautiful, brilliant, staying for a long time type of orb. So that's my own. Oh, I do have one other. I was with Mike Miller and we were at a different location.
Watch it. He's going to end up calling again.
He might. He is the best guy. I could be in a terrible mood. Mike calls me and he'll have me laughing in 1 minute, not because he's trying, just because it's that fun. So we're in an area and it's not an area where it's not, there could be people around. I mean, we're in it's a park. So there's a chance there's people. So we're out there and we think we hear something. We're like, there's movement. We're here. What are we hearing? And so we're really focused on this area that's 900 feet away. Because I was just surveying today and I was judging 1,000 feet. So I mean, it's 900 feet away from us. And out from the tree line comes this bluish white orb, this light. And it comes perfectly level out and it stops. And we were just like, oh my gosh. Well, we're thinking of the stories where Bigfoot's carrying the orb and they're this big as their head, and the orbs, they follow the orbs back to the UFO and all this kind of, I want to say crap. No, those stories of that.
Right.
And then we hear laughing. And we were up there making noise ourselves, and these kids were down by the lake and they had an old movie camera that had a light on it, and so they're coming out like this was a movie camera way down there, and we're like, that's people with a light. But for 30 seconds there, we were like, this is the greatest night ever. That was the first time I ever went out with Mike. We made this little stop to kind of desensitize me before we hit and that's how it always is. The first night, like if I go for Friday night, I am easily rattled. And then by Saturday night, you can do your thing. I mean, it takes me that long to get, and I love being under the canopy in the woods. If you take me down a country path, a logging road it's all grew up along each side, I am terrified because it's like all it takes is a little hand that comes through and get you. I want to be in there where I can at least kind of see from the starlight what's coming at you. But
right.
Anyway,
the way he describes it, though, that canopy's pretty dense.
The good areas on the right night, you are literally going like this. Well, I find myself going like this to my ear, because when it goes silent and it gets that dark, you're like, am I dead? I mean, it's just the craziest thing. It is darker. Well, there's not people around. There's no house for 5 miles. I mean,
yeah,
you wouldn't think you could find that in our area still. And if there is a house, it might be a guy that's got a generator that he runs for a few hours at night before he shuts it down, because they don't have power. They don't have water. I mean, it's a very rural area, but
a lot of people don't, you're right. A lot of people don't think of that, in Ohio.
Nope.
Maybe Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, maybe West Virginia. But yeah, there's places in Southern Ohio that are exactly the same way.
It's hard to believe until you're there. It's like, wow, I'm 6 hours from my house and I don't have a cell phone signal and nobody knows where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that right there, everybody, I think the first time they're in that situation and stuff starts happening, you start rethinking your decisions in life. It's like, why am I here? I think I probably had tears in my eyes the first time I went, because I was like, this is a horror movie and nobody knows where I'm at and they're never going to find me. And how do I find myself? That'd be 7 hours from where we were that first night from my house with this particular group of people experiencing these things that can't possibly be. There's a reason. You think, how? Nope, that you're supposed to be there.
Right.
Part of your journey to other things.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
okay, let me ask you something. You've interviewed a lot of people. Have
Yeah.
you ever, when I mentioned journey, have you ever had anybody tell you anything about? Obviously, you probably have many stories of infrasound,
Hmm.
and I've seen different effects. You can get sick. The well, once I had like when you're going to faint and like it's black pressure and it's coming down on you like you're going to
Yeah.
faint. I had that once, and that was in a place where it was like, you guys need to leave. And remember I was telling you, Rebecca mentioned a rogue when we were talking.
Hmm.
When she called me the first time, she says, yeah, and I see a rogue up on the mountain on that one side of where you guys are at. And a couple weekends before, I had an experience where, and this is how I know something happened that night, because we had heard noises, we had heard stuff, we had seen eye shine. We were in the exact area where that was my one and only daytime sighting that afternoon when we come back. So there's a lot of things that make you think possibly something's out here. So I can't be in the back of like, if four guys walk out, I can't be in the back. I can't have my back. I can't. But I'll walk 20 feet ahead of the group. As long as I am oncoming, I'm good. And I was doing that night because we were hearing stuff. And so I'm like, I want to get out here. Well, that was the last time I ever got hit with infrasound, and it knocked me down. And it was like
Physically.
if you could open up your tear ducts to where you have tears that are projectile, it was just 15 seconds of raw bawling as hard as I could. And I remember saying, okay. And when it pulls off of you, it is the equivalent of, I used to work with a guy, and we were raking, and he was running like this little sand tamp. We were doing construction, and he's older, and he died on me. So the little sand tamp, he went like this. He went face down in the sand with his eyeballs open. And I called my boss, and I said, oh, blah, blah, blah. So everybody runs over there, and everybody comes there. And he, right before everybody got there, had hopped up and was shoveling sand like a son of a bitch. He's just going balls out when the boss shows up. And he's looking at me like, what are you doing to me? And I'm like, he was shaking him. He had sand on his eyeballs, and I'm trying to revive him. He was dead. Well, I found out later, and took a couple days before he went to the doctor. And when the artery blocks up, so he kind of had a mini stroke. But then your body throws that adrenaline to kickstart you to get you out of it.
Right.
And he had that adrenaline rush right before the boss. That's what he was running on. That's a real thing. And and the boss was told me, yeah, he went to the doctor, and this is what happened. He goes, I know you're not lying to me. So when that was pulled off of me, you have an adrenaline spike, like, holy crap. And so there was no fear. Okay. And I'm like all worked up, and it just has a really weird effect on you. And I'm going to get to why I'm asking this first place. Anyway, we had more confirmation tonight because we turned to go back, and that was the only time I had a rock that's boulder size, and it was really late. We were so far on a logging trail away from our vehicles and stuff that it was stupid because of the bears and shit in that area. But we heard this thing coming through the treetops. It was cracking stuff, and we thought, oh, this is it. This is what we're being stupid is going to get us. And it landed 50 feet on the other side of us and rolled down the hill a little bit, but it was that big. That's my confirmation. Nothing is waiting 5 miles in the middle of the night for some dumbass to come walking to do that with a catapult.
Right.
So what I saw and the size of what I saw and everything kind of went together. So I think I had an experience that night. Well, the reason I ask if anybody's ever told you any of the effects from this is, and this is, I don't necessarily believe this, but this would have been 3 years ago, which would have been roughly 5 years from when this infrasound thing happened with me. I am at an event in I don't know where I was. Where's the, oh, it was Ohio State Reformatory. And I, like I
Okay.
said, I don't do those, but I would vendor wise, table wise, I'll go and you shut yourself off and be there. So I had a guy come up and talk to me. Actually, he was talking to the guy I was with, and he's shaking his hand and talking, and he looks at me and he double takes and he comes over and he goes, "You're why I'm supposed to be here today." And I've heard that before. I heard it once from a Native American guy in Pasadena, which is another story. But I looked at him and it's rattled me because I'm like, because I've been there before. And he says, "How are you?" or whatever. He's shaking my hand. He goes, "You got stuff going on." I said, "Yeah, I know." And he says, "Can I ask you something real serious?" And he's looking at me and he says, how long ago did you get hit with infrasound from a Bigfoot?" And I'm like, I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know him. And I'm really in this venue. I don't know anybody. I haven't made any friends yet. I don't know anybody. None of these people know me. So I said, it's been like a couple, 2 or 3 times, but I said about 5 years ago, one time, pretty serious. And he says, he says, "How long was it after that you saw the UFO?" And I said, "Dude," and I said, "that happened to me on a Saturday." And I said, "I saw a UFO on a Monday." And he goes, "Okay." And so I kind of described it and what the situation was. And the damn guy says, "Is that when you opened up?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "When did ghosts start working you over?" or whatever. And I'm like, "Right then, pretty close to right then." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "You were meant to have that thing in the woods." I don't know this guy. And he may be getting his info from a bad place just to
Right.
dick with me. I mean, and I apologize for my sentence enhancing words. So I have a hard time with this, and I'm still 50-50 because I did some research on him and looked him up, and he's a super nice guy, but he's into some stuff that I don't want any part of.
Right.
So maybe he just happened to know this stuff, and he worked it into a conversation to try to make me think a way I shouldn't be thinking. Or he's right. What other reason would be why that switch was flipped in me? So, and probably maybe somebody watching this has had the same stuff or whatever, but I don't know. That all happened the way he said. And in my appraisal business, I didn't start having stuff mess with me until right after that. So I don't know. And the
Right.
way that I found that area where this happened in the woods was I was looking over other areas and I found a logging trail, and it was on a peak. Like there's mountains down there. So I'm up high, and most people that have interactions, maybe not in my experience, you put yourself in a vulnerable place, then they flank you, and you're more apt to have action if they're comfortable and they have the upper hand. So you put yourself
Right.
in that vulnerable place. In our experience, you will have, if they're around, you'll have those interactions more than likely there. So we're on top of the bridge, and this rogue was up there, which maybe that's why I found that road. I don't know if it was meant to be, but I don't know where I was going with that. But I'm just telling you, I'm not saying anything here. I'm just telling you that was a crazy thing that happened to me and a crazy conversation, which is not unusual.
So what was the question you wanted to ask me? If like,
Oh,
I've heard
has
from other
anybody else
people-
ever said that they've got hit by infrasound and it has woken? Is that the right word? It has.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It was flipped a switch in them where something happened. Because I would be very interested to talk to those people.
I can ask around, but I do know that a lot of people, when they have a really profound paranormal encounter,
Mhm.
whether it be cryptid, UFO, ghost, when they have a really profound one, not just, okay, that was weird, like it's in your face, this is real.
Mhm.
It does open you up to other things. Like now you're aware of it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
aware that the paranormal exists. And I use paranormal very broadly.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they hear paranormal and think ghost. No, that's cryptids, that's UFOs, that's all of it.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people don't want to, they'll contact me and they'll be like, well, I want to talk about my Bigfoot encounter. And then as we get talking, it's like, well, you know, I kind of had a UFO encounter too, but I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm making stuff up. No, because I think that's very common. And I think a lot of people are afraid to say that they've had more than one encounter because of that stigma.
Yeah.
People are going to make fun of them. You know, oh, they're making shit up because nobody could have more than one encounter. You know, I've never had anything happen to me. How can they have had a Bigfoot encounter and a UFO encounter?
Yeah.
And, you know, Casper came and sat on their lap. You know, because once you have that epiphany moment that the paranormal is real, you start to recognize it. And I think the paranormal recognizes you, that you are a believer, that you can see.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
So yeah, I think that actually happens a lot. And in your case, it was the infrasound.
Mm-hmm. Even if it was just in my own mind that it made me aware. And people have told me, are you sure you want to go down this road? Because you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I believe that. Rich would argue with, I mean, he would say you can't turn it off, but I think here recently I've kind of turned it off. I just, new jobs and different things have happened, and I'd like to think.
I think ignoring it and turning it off are two different things.
Oh, no, you're right. Ignoring, they laugh at me. They're like, no, you just wait. It'll catch up with you. But I was affecting good when I was doing appraisals. You know, I was helping, and since I'm not doing those anymore, maybe my job there's done. But there again, people, if I was telling those stories, people would say, no, that's not how that works. It's like, dude, in your world, maybe not. In my world, I got all the confirmation I need with very fun stories.
Right.
But
right.
Anyway, yeah, if you're an animal, we've had that conversation. Lions and rhinos and giraffes and whales, and like a lion can talk 20 miles to another lion, or big cats can. They have infrasound. They can do this. A lot of times when you're in the woods and everything goes to silent, you know, there's a couple options there. It could be a big cat, and it could be the bigger prey item, you know, the bigger prey thing, and the little prey items hold still. It might even be like, well, that's how come you'll never get a trail cam, because it doesn't matter what the frequency is. They know it's there.
Right.
And maybe, this is all maybes, maybe they can avoid it, or maybe they can distort their frequency a little bit and be blurry. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they can go completely cloaked at that point, which cloaked is a word, different word. Maybe they can frequency. Maybe a ghost finds enough energy to manipulate frequency to manifest as a shit. Maybe that's how that works. I don't know, but I do know my gut tells me when I very first started this years ago that the frequency has a lot to do with a lot of stuff. And now I'm reading about, you know, healing and different things. And so they hide that from us, I think. So that's
why they took out all the bells.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Why are all the bells cracked?
Yeah.
The church rang the bells and healed everybody.
Right.
I'd never heard anybody talk about that. I'm a firm believer that, yeah, that's why. But
yeah, I've kind of looked into that a little bit. They had to melt them down for the war.
Yeah. Just the bells.
Just the bells.
I don't need any of the hardware, nothing. I just need the bell, please.
Right. And then the ones that are left are all cracked.
Yep. And that's why most rock songs or whatever are turned down to that key to where it's to make you pissed off or whatever.
Yeah.
That's that. And I never thought about that, but I'm like, you know, what are the old songs? The bells had this makes you happy. it's a glorious. And a lot of these rock songs, I mean, if I'm banging my head, sometimes I'm ready to fight or something else. I mean, it's like, man, I could really easily be talked into this. Has a lot to do with, maybe these 5G towers.
I don't disagree with you.
Why my ears ring sometimes.
Or maybe they're playing the brown note.
The brown note.
Look up the brown note.
Oh, come on. Right now? Later?
No. People out there, if you're listening, there's going to be somebody that's going to comment. Then
they're going to say
somebody out there has heard of the brown note.
I can only think one sophomoric thing.
And you're right.
Am I?
There's supposedly a frequency that you can play to make people lose control of their bowels.
That's probably already been weaponized and has been being used. I mean,
yeah,
if it can make you puke, you could probably do every part of you resonates differently. I don't know. Frequency probably has a lot to do with it. If they can heal you with it, they could probably make your body do things. I mean,
right. Well, they were talking about that when they went into Argentina.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the last time I heard. Yeah. Because they're like, they use something we've never seen. We all got sick, couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it was ultrasonic or whatever. Yeah.
So if the military can throw that, can't they pick it up when it happens? Is that why they have state parks that are off limits and some of the areas we go to that are closed and off limits? I mean, it's protected because they know frequency comes and goes and happens. And I mean, I've often thought that and I'm often thought, they see our cell phones. They know that 4 or 5 or 6 people have went to this area they shouldn't be.
Right.
So how long before we come out of there and somebody's waiting for us? I don't know. It's that I don't want to think about that. I try not to, but we're talking about crazy things that shouldn't be. And why wouldn't that be? I mean, I've been in areas where we got permission to be there even, and we called them again and they're like, no, we don't want anybody in there anymore. Oh, come on. So you gotta sneak in.
Did you hear about the how they rescued that downed airman in Iran? How they found him?
Only what Hegseth talked about. I haven't heard any of the other people's stories.
About the murmur?
No.
It's supposedly some technology where they use AI and they can hone in on your heartbeat. And that's how they were able to locate him in the mountains.
Stop. How?
Using satellite technology. And if that's true, that's scary as hell.
That terrifies
Because the next time they use it, it's not going to be to rescue somebody.
No. And it's just a matter of time before that becomes the way you do it and nobody's safe. That's even scarier than say, I'm going to send 10 drones to blow you up. It's
right.
It's even less controllable.
Right. Yeah.
You're I got to tell you a quick story about, there's no way this guy listens to podcasts. So I'm doing an appraisal and I'm in the I'm heading to the kitchen and he's got his kitchen table there. It's a little bitty house and he's got about 6 or 7 screens. And he says, oh, wait a minute. I got to go in here and shut this down before you come in here. And he's very proud of what he does. He works for the military as a citizen. It's called, his title has a special term, which means I used to be in the military, but I'm not. I'm a contractor, citizen contractor. I don't know what. Anyway, his job, and he said, I can tell you a little bit. And because I was really interested, and he says, they send me coordinates. And They don't tell me nothing. I just send back all of the vehicles that are there, all of the people, how tall they are, all the firearms. Overseas, he controls satellites.
Holy cow.
And he says, I can beam one dot down, or I can beam one dot every inch for a whole football field. And he's really proud. He goes, it's really cool. He's a civilian contractor, or however. But he can't tell me anything. He's just dying to talk about stuff. But he goes, I can't tell you more than that, other than I help them with what's there so they can do their plans. And because he didn't tell me anything.
Wow.
So instantly I'm thinking about bunkers and stuff you might have buried and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I wonder. So I say, because he's telling me he looks through houses without telling me, because how else are you going to know how many people are in this house and what they're
Right.
carrying? So I said, so you can see through treetops. And he goes, I can't tell you any more than what I've told you. And so I'm like, okay, I get totally cool. So I have my ace in the hole. And if it's ghost related, for whatever reason, most people will just bring up stuff. It happens every time. If I'm meant to be there for something, they'll bring up something ghost related or something. But this guy's, he's a tough nut to crack. So I'm like, you got all the cool toys, you know? And I said, so you're like up on everything. I said, so tell me about Bigfoot. Is it real? And he's like, oh man. So he is into it. He's like, we're having this fun conversation, and he's telling me stuff. And I start talking about the caves where we're at. And I'm like, oh man. He goes, yeah, you can, you know, we're together. He's right there with me. And I asked him about that. He's like, oh dude, he goes, I can only see like 25. And he says, I can't talk about this. And I'm like, that's all I wanted to know. That's all I was going for, is how deep in the ground can you see? And that's just him as a civilian person with his.
Right.
So that's just him. He can see
What the
from
CIA can do.
from his kitchen. He can see. So we're getting into conspiracy stuff. I'm sorry. Is that okay?
That's all right. I don't care.
So let's just say you can look in my house and you can see every mug I have, every knife, every fork. Okay, that's fine. You know, what are the chances? What are the chances that everybody's because nobody needs to know how many forks are in my kitchen, you know, or whatever. Let's pass that over to AI that can do quadrillions of functions at once. They could scan the entire United States and know everything that you have,
right,
down to anything you have buried in the yard, bodies. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, that's where we're at. And if that doesn't scare you, I know they know about Bigfoots. I know they can't not. The tech there and the way of looking at it from above. Why do you never see on these shows? I got a drone on my truck, and at the right time, I want to press the button. I want that damn thing to be over my head, infrared in this place. There are things they do like, well, tonight we're going to try this. So we're in this area. We're going to look here. It's like, no, get out in it and have everything. Have
right.
The drones ready. Have the infrared things. Have all these great tools you have, and don't turn them on yet, because I believe that frequency. I've been out with people that have taken tech, and it's a dry night. You know, if you have one little digital recorder, that tends to be allowed, and stuff will happen. But if you go out there trying to get rich and famous, they can feel all that. I got my infrared things, and I got my, you know, if that throws out so much light, infrared light, you know, and you've got 10 things with you, and everybody's got 5 things. There's so much frequency going on in that moment. Of course, you're not going to come out.
Right.
Are
my hearing aids going to throw them off?
Yeah.
Will they?
They're putting out a frequency. They're going to know you're there before they know you're there coming anyway. But
right.
it would be, Okay, here's how precise the infrasound. Can I tell a quick Bigfoot thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it has 2 parts. So I was with both my sons, and there were other people around, and I'm with Mike, and one of my kids decides to. He says, "Hey, can I try some of those Sierra sounds? Some of the samurai chatter?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're funny." And we don't really do that kind of crap, but the boys are there. The guys were all right. I mean, it's like, yeah, go ahead and do something. Like, they're not going to get. That's not too rude. It's kind of fun. So my oldest does that. He did a really good job. And at the end of it, my youngest has this thing. He can do that noise,
Mhm.
but he can bust your eardrum. It is
Mhm.
crazy what he can do. I can't believe it doesn't affect his hearing, but he can break the sound barrier with that sound. And so he did that, right? When my oldest did that, it was funny. And so Reed is my son is standing by another person that's got headphones and a little dish. You press the button, you can hear. So that person's doing this, and they're right here standing, and I'm on right by my son, and the rest of the people are right on the side of this person with the dish. We're in a tight group. And when he did that, they threw frequency, and my oldest cussed and yelled because it went right to his head. And at the exact same moment, the person with this, you could hear the sound coming out. They were on the person's head, and it just wham and took them things off, and almost in tears because of the pain. And it directed from up the hill to those 2 people at my son.
Wow.
But she was right there behind my son, and she caught that frequency coming right to him. Now that is, would anybody believe that if they hadn't seen it happen? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They directed that beam that much. And the other side of the story is I was there 1 week later. They got lucky enough to get to go back. And we are standing there, and there were less people there and a different person. And we're sitting or being very quiet. And I don't know if we were talking or whatever, but we had a lull. And down the hill, we're in the exact same place, because there's a certain area you can go right to the end, and then I won't tell you what the barrier is, but you don't want to go further. And down the hill came samurai chatter. Up the hill behind us, an answer, samurai chatter, that was followed by, and I'm like, they remember me being there.
Right.
And they remembered when them boys did that. And when I went home and told them, they're like, you have got to be kidding. I'm like, I was thrilled, but also when you understand that they remember who you are, which since then it's happened. I mean, I think they remember you just because they act different. They won't do those intimidation things, but it's rattles you to the core to know that whatever this is remembers last time.
Right.
I've often thought that even getting close to that area in the woods with Mike, that they remember what his car sounds like, because they won't. It seems like the first time you're in a brand new area with new, you'll get a yell like the one that rattles your lungs, and you'll get some serious rocks, and you might get some mud, and you might get some sounds, and you might get a tree shaking. I mean, they're just, please get out of here. They want you to leave. Well, once you've sat down, then you won't have that the next few times. You'll know they're there because you might see the ice shine, or you might get the pebble. And when they're there because the world shuts down, and you'll have some little interactions. And I honestly think they remember you. And it's like, you just want to say, come and talk. Let me see your face. I don't know that I think
Have you
that
ever asked?
in my mind, but every time I've
Right.
done that, I've been with people that maybe there's one person in the group that doesn't have they didn't prepare before they came out. like open your heart up and sit there and just without addressing them, understand that it is beautiful out here tonight. It smells great. And it's just, it is such a pleasure to be here, and be thankful. You may have, if you could do that, you may have a fun experience, something that gives you what you need for that night to understand. And I watch John Tenney, John Tenney. He used
I'm
to
horrible with names, man.
he used to travel around doing shows. He's pretty famous as far as paranormal, like television and stuff. John Tenney is his name. He's older. I watched him do a thing, and he talked about trolls, little this size, not dressed in little hats, but what he called trolls. And he said, you have to 3 days of no meat, and you have to fast. And he goes, you can't smell of that stuff before you go out there. And he knows an area where they will come out, but not if he's ate meat. And I laughed at that until I understood that. And I know now why. I'm probably telling stuff, Mike. There's a little bit of reflection on the way to certain areas, and quiet, and we're quiet when we get out, and respectful. And there's a little bit of prep that goes on there that I think has a lot to do with what's going to happen, especially if you're in an area where they tend to be, or people are having experiences and problems, because that's what they do. They go help people understand it's actually kind of cool, not necessarily a nightmare. Although lately there's been some aggressive stuff happening around. There's a lot of movement, a lot of reports and a lot of stuff. And I don't know if that means something's going to happen in the world, or I don't know, but there's good and there's bad, and you don't really get that often. But in my experience, just me, whatever's going on, whatever we're interacting with, if you're having an off day, or you're there with somebody that's only intention is to be famous or get some evidence, or wants to shoot something, you're not seeing nothing. They could be right there by you, but you're never going to know it, and that's just my experience. Now, people will say, this guy's full of crap. No, this is just my experience. A decade of multiple, if I've been out there with these guys to the same place 10 times, and the same thing happens when you do one thing, then I believe that we, or me, have a right to an opinion. Yeah. And that's everything. When I talk, I think it's just my opinion from repetitive things that have happened, and I'll argue with people. I'm like, you don't know, you don't know. And you probably have stuff that I would say, wow, I can't really wrap my head around that because I've never experienced it, but
right.
I tangented off there. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Well, Jeff, we've been going for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning, I've been sick all week, and I can kind of feel it in my throat right now.
I'm sorry.
So I do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to have you back on with Dr. Foster.
That would be so much fun. And I feel really blessed to be able to have these. I mean, we've talked before, this is like therapy.
Yeah,
you don't know who you're talking to ever. And this is like a very relaxed, let's just throw stuff out there and experiences and get it off my chest. And I appreciate that. I thank you tons.
You're welcome. You can call me anytime, man.
You will be sitting in the woods with me at some point, probably this summer, if not more than once.
Sounds good. We can do that.
I feel like I think you have some success.
I hope so.
No, yeah, we're going to definitely do that.
Well, Jeff, tell everybody where they can find your figurines.
Creature Replica, and that's all one word. Creature Replica is all one word. Or on Facebook.
Only one R.
One R.
Yes.
And that's like the easiest place. So creaturereplica.com is where we are right now. We don't have any Bigfoots. There will be an opportunity to get some of the last 50, but all the figures, the other ones, except for the variants, are on there now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we have some really cool stuff coming up here, because we have a bunch of prototypes, but the world right now, we just got to kind of wait to make sure it's doable, because there is shipping and there's overseas, and I wish it could be done here. I went into this thinking it could be, but it can't. You just got to get it done where they do it. But yeah, creaturereplica.com's out there. And yeah, and if anybody hears this leaving later on that has an answer to some of the questions I posed, or man, shoot me a note or whatever. I would love to have that conversation.
Send me an email.
Oh,
no, I'll make sure he gets it.
I'm sorry, what?
I said they could send me an email and I'll make sure that you get it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, do you have a way to do this live from the woods? Is that tech exist?
Yeah.
Probably nothing happened, because we'd be blowing frequency and signals all over the place.
As long as we had cell phone signal.
There isn't. A couple of the places we go, there isn't. Yeah. So that kind of bummer, but we could do an update right after.
We could do that. We could do that.
Okay. I'm in. I'm sorry. I'll shut up. I hope you get better.
No, you're fine.
Feel better, please. You got a lot of these to do, man. You got to take your vitamins and say your prayers.
I know. Yeah. I really don't want to go to the doctor.
I don't blame you. I'm with you there.
All right. Let me wrap this up. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, or maybe Big Bird was standing beside the road while you went by, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Until next time, talk to you later.
Thanks, sir.
Gotta go. And that's it for tonight. Make sure you're checking out the description on this episode for any links associated with the guest. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Good night, everyone.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast. Spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where